If you enjoy today's content, then please consider supporting Top Hat Gaming Man on Patreon. Yeah! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Top Hat Gaming Man here, aka Mr. Cancel Console. At this point in history, I have created over 17 different videos covering various different systems that have never seen commercial releases. This content varies from taking deep looks at Nintendo's canned control decks, a plethora of Sega's pushed out platforms, and a cornucopia of crap such as the Halcyon and even the 3DO M2. When it comes to these mostly forgotten oddities, one company has perhaps left behind more half-baked systems on the cutting room floor than perhaps any other, and that company is of course Atari. Amongst this Aladdin's cave of mysterious platforms, we have focused on the Atari Cosmos and the Atari Panther already. Today is time to look at yet another Atari write-off. This is the story of the Atari Jaguar Duo. Yeah! In order to understand the story of the Atari Jaguar Duo, we first have to understand the story of the Atari Jaguar CD. And in order to understand the story of the Atari Jaguar CD, we have to have a good understanding of the Atari Jaguar itself. One would expect with an audience as cultured as mine, you probably already have a decent grasp on these subjects already, but it would not hurt anyone to have a recap nonetheless. The Atari Jaguar itself was developed exclusively in my home of the United Kingdom by a company known as Flare Technology, making it an all-British games console, in turn making Jaguar the only correct way to pronounce the system's name, over the likes of Jaguar and Jaguar. Yuck. Flare, the company itself, was founded in 1986 by Martin Brennan, Ben Cheese and John Matheson, former engineers at Sinclair Research, the company famous for bringing the ZX Spectrum into our lives. Moving forward, Flare would work with Amstrad, and even later on than that would begin to develop the Konix Multisystem, another cancelled platform we have covered on this channel before. Finally, Flare would develop the Flare 2, which would be purchased by Atari and renamed the Jaguar. Now, as we all know, the Jaguar went on to have quite a rocky life cycle. The system was born into an era where everyone wanted a slice of that console market pie. In the years surrounding the system's launch, apart from the Super Nintendo and Mega Drive, Atari also had the other systems to compete with, such as the Panasonic 3DO, the Philips CDI, Amiga CD32, Apple Pippin and FM Towns Marty, just to name a few of them. On top of that, the Sega Mega CD was also about, and at the Jaguar launch, we were only a few years off the release of the Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn. The console market was crammed with consumer choice. Away from the heavy competition, the platform was multi-chip architecture, hardware bugs, and a lack of developer support tools made game development on the system much trickier than that of which could be found on the likes of its competitors' hardware. This in turn led to lower sales figures than expected, leading to less third-party support. Atari decided they needed to adjust their game plan slightly if they wanted to once again succeed in the console arena. So, in order to do so and expand the life of the Jaguar hardware, Atari developed the Jaguar CD add-on and began to market the product as a low-cost next-generation console. The Jaguar then began to be marketed at $100 cheaper than the likes of its competitors. Despite these bold steps forward, though, Jaguar sales continued to plummet with the release of the Saturn and PlayStation. Reportedly, the Jaguar only managed to shift 250,000 units throughout its whole lifespan. Despite the system's failings and weaknesses, that does not mean that the system and its add-ons do not attract a cult following today. There are many people out there who advocate the Atari Jaguar as being one of the most interesting and cutting-edge systems for its time. And amongst these people is a gentleman known as Kieran, who runs a little YouTube channel known as Laird's Lair. Amongst Kieran's accolades are regularly writing for Retro Gamer magazine, writing scripts for some of Guru Larry's videos, and even writing Slope's Game Room's in-depth, controversial, epic movie long-length video on the Sinclair Vega Plus scandal. All in all, making him an undersung hero amongst the retro gaming community. This man is basically the go-to source when it comes to looking for leads on anything to do with Atari. So, as a result, the two of us had a chat about the Duo and Atari's history in general, prior to the release of this video, which helped point me in the right directions. So, if you want to learn even more about Atari and this man's love for the Jaguar, then I suggest you all check out and subscribe to Laird's Lair for even more Atari content. Anyway, back to the rest of the video. During the Winter Consumer Electronics Show of 1995, the successor model to the Atari Jaguar was finally unveiled as the Atari Jaguar Duo. The Duo was, as the name suggests, an all-in-one cartridge and CD unit, potentially offering consumers the choice to play games from both formats, whilst removing the need to buy a console and an entirely separate add-on. In many ways, this product would have been very similar to the Sega Multi-Mega, the often forgotten Sega console which allowed you to play both the Mega Drive and Mega CD games on the same unit. Further, to being an all-in-one unit, it is said that the Atari Jaguar Duo would have came packed with an Atari Pro controller, a device which it appears that many people do not even seem to realise exists. The Atari Pro controller was manufactured in a response to negative consumer feedback with regards to the platform's original controller. This revised model, the Pro controller, has 6 fire buttons as opposed to 3 with the traditional controllers, and it added L and R triggers as well. The D-pad was made smoother and was more refined, and all in all was just a more comfortable device to hold. Sadly though, if you want to pick up one of these controllers today, you are looking at paying over £200, as it is one of the most sought after controllers around. It is most likely that the Atari Jaguar Duo would have been built and produced by Philips, as Philips were responsible for manufacturing the Jaguar CD add-on for Atari. Others speculate also that IBM could have produced them, but Atari had experienced numerous production problems working with IBM in the past, which cost them dearly. So a deal with Philips just makes much more sense really. There were also plans in place for this system to feature games which used both a cartridge and CD simultaneously, kind of how the Sega Saturn would, which involved running a game off a CD with a cartridge providing extra memory and RAM. Doom 2 was heavily rumoured to have been released for the Jaguar Duo in this format. Moving back to the Winter Consumer Electronics Show, Atari seemed to be pushing quite strong at this event, as away from the Duo, they also promoted their very own VR headset 2, which was extremely cutting edge and ambitious for the time frame. So Atari at that point were clearly still looking to the future within the hardware market, so a Jaguar Duo paired with a VR headset was once a very real possibility. A prototype of this very device now lives over at the Retro Computer Museum in Leicester, England, and can be seen appearing in this footage here, uploaded by Laird's Lair. So, with the reveal of both VR and an all-new console, the future was looking fairly interesting for Atari. Sadly though, moving only slightly forward in time, the 1995 annual financial report revealed that the company's profits were far below what Atari management were happy with, and in turn this performance drove down both investment and licensing in the company. Many internals at Atari blamed Atari's failings directly on the Jaguar, and as of November of 1995, Atari controversially dismissed the entirety of their gaming development team. According to some involved, Atari head honcho Jack Tramiel was so angry about the goings-on at the company that he picked up a Jaguar and threw it against a wall, shouting, "You can all pack your bags, your toys, and I'll take you all away." Despite having no more development team, the Jaguar continued to be heavily marketed on television in an attempt to get rid of all the excess inventory. The final game released on Jaguar saw a release in April of 1996 and amusingly was titled Fight for Your Life. All in all though, there was much more to Atari leaving the hardware market than just the Jaguar, all of which we shall go into detail on in next week's video, when I cover the history of the cancelled Atari Jaguar 2. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I said Jaguar 2. The Jaguar ride is not quite over yet, so if you are new to this channel, I suggest you hit the subscribe button, as it will be must-see content. Yeah. So, as you are fully aware by now, we never got our beautiful Atari Jaguar Duo, packed in with a glorious Pro controller, nor did we get any Atari VR. But the story of this device does not quite end here. The Atari Jaguar Duo, shown off in images, would eventually end up in the hands of a collector, but sadly it turned out to be just a mock-up case with no internals, kind of like the Sega Neptune, which was also shown off at a trade show in the past. But since this has happened, unpopulated boards have been found along with schematics, making this device just that little bit more tangible. One final note to close on is that one Atari fan has continued to go out of his way to make the Atari Jaguar Duo a reality. In 2013, a gentleman released a video online of a working Jaguar Duo he had built himself. The man in question changed the product's name from the Atari Jaguar Duo simply to the Jaguar Player 1 in an attempt to avoid any legal ramifications. The system is shown working in the video and also displays MP3 and component video support. According to Kieran, this gentleman actually intends to mass produce and sell these devices down the line, so hopefully one day our dreams of owning Atari Jaguar Duos will finally come into fruition. We have only been waiting 24 years, but better late than never, I suppose. So that was the story of the Atari Jaguar Duo. Thank you for watching today's video. I regularly create weekly in-depth content on this channel covering subjects such as cancelled forgotten games consoles, way through to deep retrospectives on systems that need a little bit more coverage, such as the FM Towns Marty for example. So if you like this content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for regular content. I am talking about the Jaguar 2 next week, but let me know which cancelled systems you would like to see me cover in the future. Finally, my channel Top Hat Gaming Man is partly funded from the fantastic support and donations I receive from my top-notch Patreon supporters. So, shoutouts in the credits to Carl Johnson, Shizuka Kobayashi, Greg Hooper, Richard Clark, Harold Webb, Since Spaces, Kevin Verhaley, David Mountford, Andrew Bizanski, Edward O'Reilly, Tom Elliott, Mark S. Hines, Lawrence C, The Gaming Muso, SpongeMat B, Quang DX, Stuart McDermott, Nash Quad, Michael Baker, Andy Aldridge and all of my other patrons. You are making my dreams more realistic by the day.